Dad, I'm not inviting you to my promotion party because, well, you just don't fit in with my friends from the company. Those words from my son Robert pierced my chest like a knife. My name is Stephen Harris. I'm 72 years old, and I never thought I'd hear something like that from the boy I sacrificed my entire life for. So do this for me. Listen to this story until the end. And also share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Then you can tell me which part of it truly touched your heart. And what city you're listening from, okay? It was a Tuesday afternoon when Robert came to my house. I was in the yard watering the plants that my late Lucy cared for so much. She had been gone for 3 years, and since then, those flowers were the only thing that connected me to her. Every morning I watered them, cared for them, talked to them, as if she could hear me. "How are you, Dad?" Robert said as he came through the back door. He always used that door, never the main one, as if he were a stranger who didn't want to bother me. "Doing well, son, doing well," I answered, setting the hose aside. "Want some coffee? I just made a fresh pot." He looked different that day. He wore a new shirt, one of those expensive ones you buy at the fancy malls. His shoes shone like mirrors. Everything about him screamed money, success, prosperity. And there I was in my work clothes, my calloused hands, my old but comfortable shoes. "Sure," he said, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. That was a habit he had developed in recent years. Before, when he was a boy, he always looked straight at me when we talked. Now it was as if he was ashamed to see me. We sat at the patio table, that white plastic one I bought on sale 10 years ago. Lucy always said that one day we would replace it with a nicer wooden one, but we never did. Now there was no point. "How's the family?" I asked as I poured coffee into the chipped mugs we used every day. "Good, good. The kids are growing up. Emily is pregnant again." "Really, that's wonderful news. It's going to be the third one, right?" "Yeah," he answered sharply, as if the topic didn't interest him much, as if talking about his family with me was an obligation, not a pleasure. We drank our coffee in silence for a few minutes. I watched my son trying to understand when he had changed so much, when he had become so distant, when he had started to see me as if I were an obstacle in his life. "Dad, I have to tell you something." He finally began, nervously fidgeting with his cup. "Tell me, son. Is something wrong?" "No, it's nothing bad, quite the opposite." He paused as if searching for the right words. "They gave me a promotion at the company." My heart immediately filled with pride. My son, my Robert, the one who had studied engineering thanks to my sleepless nights, was growing professionally. "Wow, son, that's great news. What position did they give you?" "Regional manager. I'm going to oversee all operations in the Midwest." "Congratulations, son. We have to celebrate this. You know what? Let's have a barbecue on Sunday. I'll invite Michael and Sarah. We'll have a family gathering like the old days." His face changed. He looked uncomfortable, nervous. He started wringing his hands like when he was a boy and had broken something. "Dad, about that. The company is throwing a party to celebrate my promotion." "That's great. I'm so glad they're recognizing you like that." "When is it?" "Next Saturday." "Perfect. You know your old man is always available for his kids' important things. What time should I pick you up?" That's when his face turned very serious, very uncomfortable. He looked away at the plants, at the sky, anywhere but at me. "Dad, about that. What's wrong, son?" It's a very special party, very important." "Of course it's important. It's your promotion, your achievement." "Yes, but very important people from the company will be there. Directors, managers from other cities, people, very sophisticated people." Something in his tone began to bother me. The way he said sophisticated people as if I were an ignorant fool. And what does that have to do with me, son? That's when he let out the words that changed everything. The words that still hurt when I remember them. Dad, I'm not going to invite you to my promotion party because, well, you don't fit in with my friends from the company. I froze. Completely frozen. For a moment I thought I had misheard, that my old ears had played a trick on me. What did you say, son? It's just, look, Dad, these people are different from us. They're executives, entrepreneurs, people with college degrees, with money. They talk about topics that, well, that you don't know about. Each word hurt more than the last. My own son, my blood, was telling me that I wasn't good enough to be at his celebration. Dad, you're, how do I put it? Very simple, very basic. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable among all those sophisticated people. Simple. Basic. Those words stabbed into my chest like daggers. Besides, he continued, oblivious to the damage he was causing, they're going to a very elegant place, very exclusive. It's not like the places you're used to. It's a luxury ballroom, the kind where only important people hold their events. I fell silent. Not out of sadness, not out of anger. I fell silent because something was happening inside me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Do you understand, Dad? It's not that I don't want you there. It's just, well, I want to make a good impression. And you, with your way of being, with your way of talking, you could ruin everything. Ruin everything. His own father ruining his moment of glory. I understand, I finally said in a voice I didn't even recognize. Really? You're not mad? No, son, I'm not mad. He stood up from the chair, clearly relieved, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. I knew you would understand, Dad. That's why you're the best dad in the world. You've always been so understanding with us. The best dad in the world. What bitter irony. He gave me a quick mechanical hug and left. I stayed there, sitting, watching him drive away in his new truck. That truck he thought he had bought with his own effort alone. That night, as I lay in my empty bed, staring at the ceiling, a single question hammered in my head. When did I become an embarrassment to my own children? But there was something else. Something Robert didn't know. Something he was about to find out very soon. And when he did, everything was going to change. The days following that conversation with Robert were strange. I got up early, as always, made my coffee, watered Lucy's plants. But something had changed inside me. I couldn't stop thinking about his words. You don't fit in. You're too simple. Too basic. Simple. Basic. I wondered if my son remembered who had paid for his education. If he remembered the nights I came home with my hands torn up, covered in lime and cement, just so I could give him what he needed. I sat in my old armchair, the one Lucy always wanted to replace, but I refused to throw away because it was comfortable. And I started to remember. To remember everything I had done for that boy who was now ashamed of me. Robert was born on a Tuesday in August of 1978. That day I was working on a construction site, lugging rebar under a sun that could melt stone. When they told me Lucy had gone into labor, I ran from work, not caring if they docked my pay for the day. I arrived at the hospital in dirty clothes, smelling of cement and sweat. The nurses looked at me strangely, as if I didn't belong there. But I didn't care. My son was about to be born, and I had to be there. When I finally got to hold him, he was so small, so fragile. His tiny hands gripped my calloused finger, and in that moment I made a promise to myself. This boy would never suffer what I had suffered. He would never go hungry. He would never lack for anything. He would never feel less than other children. The first few years were the hardest. We lived in a single room in a crowded apartment building in a rough neighborhood. One room where the three of us slept, cooked, and lived. Robert slept in a little crib I had made myself with planks and nails. I worked in construction from 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening. Then I would go clean offices from 8 at night until midnight. I slept 4 hours and started all over again. On Sundays, I sold corn on the cob in the park to make a few extra dollars. Lucy, my saint of a wife, stayed home taking care of the boy and sewing clothes for others to earn some money. The 2 sewing machines we had made noise all night long. Robert would fall asleep to that sound as if it were a lullaby. When Robert turned 3, he started asking me why other kids had toys and he didn't. That question broke my heart. That very night after finishing my cleaning job, I walked all the way downtown because I didn't have money for the bus, and I searched through the trash cans until I found some plastic cars someone had thrown away. I got home around 2 in the morning. I cleaned those cars with soap and alcohol. I painted them with some paint left over from the construction site, and the next day I gave them to Robert. I had never seen such a big smile on my son's face. "Dad, these are the most beautiful cars in the world," he shouted, hugging me with his chubby little hands. To him, they were new. To him, they were perfect. And I felt like the proudest father on the planet. When it was time for him to start elementary school, Lucy and I were very worried. We didn't have money to buy him new uniforms, school supplies, or shoes. But we worked miracles. Lucy sewed his uniforms with fabric she bought at the flea market. I fixed up some used shoes a friend gave me. And with a lot of effort, we scraped together enough for his notebooks and pencils. On the first day of school, Robert looked beautiful in his new uniform. But when he got to school, he realized he was different. The other kids had brand-name backpacks, expensive supplies, nice lunchboxes. Robert carried everything in a plastic bag. That afternoon, he came home crying. "Dad, the kids make fun of me because I don't have a nice backpack like them." I didn't sleep that night. Not from exhaustion, but from rage. Rage against the world, against poverty, against my bad luck. But above all, rage against myself for not being able to give my son what he deserved. The next day, I went to talk to my boss at the construction site. I asked for a 2-week advance on my salary. He said it wasn't possible that the company didn't give advances. So I offered to work Saturdays and Sundays without extra pay in exchange for the money I needed. "All right, Stephen," he said, "but I don't want to see you slacking off during the week." I worked like an animal those days, Saturdays and Sundays under the sun, without rest, without complaint. With the money I saved up, I bought Robert a new backpack. It wasn't a brand name, but it was new. It was his. When I gave it to him, his eyes lit up like Christmas lights. "Thanks, Dad. Now I'll be just like the other kids." Just like the other kids. Those words motivated me to keep fighting. Throughout his elementary, middle, and high school years, I worked double shifts so he would never lack for anything. Lucy and I wore clothes from the thrift store. We ate beans and tortillas almost every day. We never went to the movies. We never went on outings. Everything, absolutely everything, was for Robert and his siblings, who came later. When Robert finished high school, he pulled me aside. "Dad, I want to study engineering." "Engineering," I said. "That's very expensive, son." "I know, Dad, but I want to be an engineer. I want to have a good life, a good job. I don't want to be a construction worker like you." "I don't want to be a construction worker like you." Those words hurt, but I understood them. He wanted something better. I wanted that for him too. All right, son. We'll figure out a way. For 5 years, I worked like I had never worked before in my life. In addition to my 2 jobs, I started selling food on the weekends. Lucy made tamales, and I sold them on the street door to door. We saved every dollar, every cent. There were days I came home so tired I would fall asleep at the dinner table. Lucy would wake me up gently. Go to bed, honey. You have to be up early again tomorrow. But it was worth it. Everything was worth it when I saw Robert studying, when I saw him with his books, with his university uniform, with his student friends. My son was going to be a professional. My son was going to have the life I never could. On his graduation day, I wore my only suit, the one I had bought for my wedding, and only wore on very special occasions. Lucy wore her blue dress, the prettiest one she had. When they called his name, when they said, Robert Harris, industrial engineer, I cried like a child. My son, the construction worker's son, was an engineer. After the ceremony, he approached me with his diploma in hand. Thanks, Dad. None of this would have been possible without you. That was one of the happiest nights of my life. But now, 30 years later, that same young man was telling me that I didn't fit into his world. I got up from the armchair and went to my room. From a drawer, I took out an old box where I kept memories, photos of when Robert was a child, his report cards, his engineering diploma, letters he had written to me from college, thanking me for all my effort. One letter in particular caught my eye. I read it again. Dad. Someday, I'm going to be someone important, and I'm going to pay you back for everything you've done for me. You're going to be proud of your son, and I will always be proud of you. How easily people forget where they come from once they've arrived where they wanted to be. The day after reviewing those old letters, I decided to do something I hadn't done in a long time. Call my other children. Michael and Sarah were also professionals. They had also managed to get ahead thanks to the same sacrifices I made for Robert. I wanted to know if they thought the same as their older brother. I dialed Michael first. He was an accountant. He worked at an auditing firm. He had always been the quietest of my 3 children, but also the most considerate. Dad, how are you? It's strange for you to call during the week. I'm fine, son. Just wanted to see how you're doing. How's Patricia? How are my grandkids? Everyone's fine, Dad. Busy with schoolwork, you know. We chatted for a few minutes about unimportant things. Then I decided to test the waters. Hey, Michael, did you know they gave Robert a promotion? Yeah, he told me. He seems very happy. And you know there's going to be a party? Yeah, he mentioned something about it. Did he invite you? There was an uncomfortable silence on the other end of the line. Dad. About that? I knew what was coming. I could feel it in his tone of voice. Michael, tell me the truth. He invited you, but not me. Another silence, longer, more painful. Dad, it's complicated. It's not complicated, son. It's simple. Tell me the truth. Yes, he invited me, but he told me you weren't going because you had other plans. Lies. My own son had lied to exclude me from his celebration. And what did you say to him? Well, I said it was fine that it was his party and he could decide who to invite. Those words hurt me as much as Robert's. Michael knew his brother was lying, but he had done nothing to defend me. I understand, I said. Dad, don't be mad. It's just a party. Just a party, I repeated his words. Of course, son. Just a party. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye, something I had never done in my life. A few minutes later, I called Sarah. She was an elementary school teacher. She lived in another state with her husband. She had always been my favorite, my only girl. Dad. What a surprise. How are you, Daddy? Her cheerful voice calmed me a little. Sarah had always been different from her brothers. More affectionate, closer. I'm fine, my girl. How are you? How's Rob? We're good, Dad. Working a lot, but good. And you? How have you been since Mom died? She was the only one of my children who always asked about my emotional state. The others would ask, how are you, as in a formality. Sarah genuinely wanted to know, son? I'm getting by, honey. I miss your mom a lot. I know, Dad. You two were together for 50 years. It's normal for you to miss her. We talked for a while about her work, her students, her plans. Then I decided to ask the same question. Hey, Sarah, do you know Robert is having a party for his promotion? Yeah, he told me. He's very excited. Did he invite you? There was a pause. Short, but it was there. Dad? Yes, he invited me. But it's too far and I can't travel. I understand. And do you know that he didn't invite me? Another silence. Sarah, answer me. Dad, Robert told me that you had other plans that day. The same lie. All three siblings knew the truth, but had decided to play along with Robert. My girl, do you think your father doesn't fit into your brother's world? What are you saying, Dad? Why are you asking me that? Answer me, Sarah. Do you think I'm too simple, too basic to be around sophisticated people? Dad, what's going on? Why are you asking me such strange things? But she didn't answer the question, and that was an answer in itself. Nothing, my girl, just curious. I'll let you get some rest. Dad, wait. I hung up. I sat there in my armchair processing what I had just discovered. It wasn't just Robert. All my children agreed that I didn't belong in their new world. They had all accepted the lie without questioning it. All three had studied thanks to my effort. All three had good jobs, good houses, good lives. And all three were ashamed of the old man who had made it all possible. That night, as I ate dinner alone at my plastic table, I remembered when they were little. How they used to wait for me at the door when I came home from work. How they would shout, "Dad's home," and run to hug me in my dirty clothes and calloused hands. Michael was 5 when he got pneumonia. We were in the hospital for 3 days. I didn't leave his side for a second. I slept in an uncomfortable chair. I only ate the sandwiches Lucy brought me. When he woke up and saw me there, he said, "Dad, you're the best dad in the whole world." Sarah was 7 when some kids at school made fun of her because her shoes were torn. She came home crying. That same afternoon, I sold my radio, the only valuable thing I had to buy her new shoes. When I gave them to her, she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I love you, Dad," she whispered in my ear. Robert was 10 when he wanted a bicycle for his birthday. All his friends had a bicycle except him. I worked 3 months of overtime. I even sold my work tools to save up the money. On his birthday, when he saw the bicycle, he started crying with excitement. "You're the best dad in the world," he said. "When I grow up, I'm going to buy you a car so you don't have to walk anymore." When did those children who adored me turn into adults who were ashamed of me? I got up from the table and went to the living room. On the wall were their graduation photos, all 3 of them with their gowns, their caps, their diplomas. In all the photos, I was by their side, proud, smiling like a fool. In Robert's photo, he had his arm around my shoulder. His face was radiant with happiness. In the dedication he wrote on the back of the photo, it said, "For the best dad in the world. Without you, none of this would have been possible. I love you, Dad. How quickly people forget their promises. But as the hours passed, something strange began to happen inside me. The pain was transforming into something different, something I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't sadness, it wasn't self-pity. It was something stronger, more powerful. It was determination. My children thought they knew their father. They thought they knew everything about the old construction worker who had given them life. But there were things they didn't know, things I had never told them because I thought they weren't important. Robert was going to have his party on Saturday at a very elegant, very exclusive place. He had said, a place where only important people hold their events. I smiled for the first time in days. If my children wanted to play at being important, I was going to let them play. But this game had rules they didn't know, and I knew exactly how I was going to play it. On Friday morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I had things to do, people to see. For years, I had kept certain aspects of my life private, without showing off, without boasting. But now it was time for my children to know the whole truth about who their father really was. After breakfast, I took a shower. I put on my best clothes and left the house. My first stop was the bank. I needed to review some documents, some papers I hadn't touched in a long time. "Good morning, Mr. Harris." The teller greeted me when I walked in. "How are you?" "I'm well, my dear. I'm here to check on my accounts." The young woman knew me well. I had been a client of that bank for years, although my children never knew exactly why I went there so often. I sat down with the manager, a young man who always treated me with great respect. "Mr. Harris, how can I help you today?" "I want to review the status of my properties, my investments. It's been a while since I've seen the full numbers." The manager opened my file on his computer. His eyes moved across the screen as he reviewed the information. "Everything is in order, Mr. Harris. Your properties are holding their value. Your investments have grown well this year. Do you need a specific statement?" "Yes. Print everything for me. I want to have everything up to date." While I waited for the papers, I thought about how I had come to own all of this. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been fast, but it had been possible thanks to decisions I made many years ago. Decisions my children never knew I had made. After the bank, I drove to the other side of the city, to an area my children never visited, because they considered it too common, too working class. An area where I had several businesses. My first stop was the San Miguel Tortilla Shop, a small place but always full of customers. "Mr. Harris!" Carmen shouted from behind the counter. "What a surprise to see you here! How are you?" "I'm fine, Carmen. How are sales?" "Very good, boss. This month we sold more than last month. People trust our tortillas." Boss. That's what Carmen called me because I was the owner of that tortilla shop, and 3 others in different neighborhoods. I spent an hour reviewing the numbers, talking with the employees, seeing how things were. Then I went to the compadre's hardware store, another business of mine that my children never knew existed. "Boss," greeted David the manager. "How are you? Are you here to check the inventory?" "Yes, my friend. Let's see how we're doing." The hardware store was also doing well. We sold paint tools, construction materials. Construction workers from all over the area came to buy there because they knew we had good prices and quality. Next, I went to check on the 2 diners I owned in the Central Market, the Lupita and the Midwestern Corner, both with a great clientele, both making good profits. At the Lupita, Rosa received me with a huge smile. "Mr. Harris, so good to see you. Have you had breakfast? I'll make you some eggs over easy, just how you like them." "That sounds great, Rosa. How have sales been?" "Very good, boss. The chili on Thursdays sells out early. The tamales on Fridays, too. People always ask when you're coming by." I sat down to eat while I reviewed the sales reports. The numbers were good, very good. For years, these businesses had been generating money that I reinvested or saved. Money my children never knew existed. Why did I never tell them? Because I didn't want them to become complacent. I wanted them to study, to work, to strive on their own merits. I didn't want them to know their father had money because I thought it would make them lazy, entitled. How ironic. I had raised them to be hardworking and humble, and now they were ashamed of their father's humility. After checking all my businesses, I drove to the outskirts of the city, to a place very few people knew about. A place that was my greatest pride and my best-kept secret. I arrived at an industrial area full of warehouses and small companies. I parked in front of a large 2-story building with a sign that said Harris and Associates Construction, my construction company. I walked in through the main door. The receptionist, a young woman who had been working with me for 3 years, greeted me with great respect. "Good morning, Mr. Harris." Mr. Harris. That's what they called me at the company, even though I never studied engineering. But after 40 years working in construction, I knew more than many engineers. "Good morning, Claudia. Is Mr. Morales in?" "Yes, he's in his office. I'll let him know you're here." I went up the stairs to my office. A large office with windows overlooking the entire city, with a fine wooden desk with diplomas and awards on the walls. An office that Robert had never seen. Mr. Morales, my partner and friend of many years, came in with a smile. "Stephen, how are you? Are you here to review the new projects?" "Yes, Mario. Let's see how we're doing." We sat down to review the contracts. The construction company had 5 major projects in progress. 2 apartment buildings, a shopping mall, a school, and a residential complex. $1-million projects that provided jobs for more than 200 employees. "How are the buildings in the Del Valle neighborhood coming along?" I asked. "Very well, Stephen. We're ahead of schedule. The apartments are selling fast. And the shopping mall? Also good. The client is very happy with the quality of the work." For 2 hours, we reviewed numbers, blueprints, budgets. The company was growing faster than we had planned. We had a waiting list of clients who wanted to work with us. "Stephen," Mario said before he left, "have you thought about what I mentioned about expanding to other cities?" "Yes, I've thought about it. I think it's a good time. We'd need reliable partners, people who know the business." "I know. We'll see." After Mario left, I stayed alone in my office looking out the window. From there, you could see the whole city of Chicago. A city that had grown along with me. Where I had built my life from the ground up. Where I had raised not only buildings, but also a family. On my desk, I had photos of my children when they were little. Photos of Lucy. Photos of my grandchildren. But there were no recent photos of family gatherings because there were no more family gatherings. My children believed their father was a retired construction worker living off a modest pension. They didn't know he owned 8 prosperous businesses. They didn't know he had a construction company that billed millions a year. They didn't know he had properties in different parts of the city. They didn't know that the simple, basic old man who had raised them was in fact one of the most successful businessmen in Chicago. And above all, they didn't know that he was the owner of the most exclusive event hall in the entire city, the hall where Robert was going to celebrate his party the next day. I smiled as I put the papers in my briefcase. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. A day my children would never forget. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. I woke up very early like every day. But this time I had a different feeling. It was like when I was young and had an important fight ahead of me. Nerves mixed with excitement, but above all, a strange calm. I had a leisurely breakfast, watered Lucy's plants, and then sat down to remember how I had become the owner of the most exclusive hall in Chicago. It had been 8 years ago. I was looking for a big investment, something that would give me good returns, but also be a legacy for my children. One day, Mr. Morales told me that the owner of the Pines was bankrupt and needed to sell urgently. "It's a very elegant hall, Stephen," he had said. "It's in the best part of the city. It has beautiful gardens, capacity for 500 people. But the owner got into bad business deals, and the banks are pressuring him." I went to see it on a Tuesday afternoon. When I arrived, I was impressed. It was a magnificent place. It had fountains, rose gardens, halls with high ceilings and crystal chandeliers, a full industrial kitchen, parking for 200 cars. "How much is he asking?" I asked Mario. "A lot of money, Stephen, but it's well below its real value." It was a huge investment. I would have to use all my savings, sell some properties, take out a large loan, but something told me it was worth it. "Make him an offer," I said. The negotiation lasted 3 months. The owner needed the money quickly, so in the end, he accepted my proposal. We signed the papers on a Friday afternoon at the lawyer's office. When I left there with the deeds in my hand, I sat in my car and cried. Not from sadness, but from emotion. The son of a Michigan farmer, the one who had arrived in Chicago with $50 in his pocket, was now the owner of the most elegant event hall in the city. But I never told my children. I thought it wasn't important. I thought it was just another business. How wrong I was. The first 2 years were difficult. I had to remodel many things, change the decor, improve the gardens, modernize the kitchen. I hired the best chefs, the best waiters, the best event planners. Little by little, the Pines became famous. The rich families of Chicago began to celebrate their weddings, sweet 16s, and anniversaries there. Important businessmen held their business dinners there. Politicians held their campaign events there. I managed everything from the shadows. I had a general manager who handled the daily operations, but I made the important decisions. I visited the hall every week, checked everything, made sure the quality was perfect. My children never knew any of this. To them, I was still the retired construction worker living off his pension. On Wednesday of that week, after the conversation with Robert, I had called David, my manager. "David, I need to ask you something. Do we have an event next Saturday?" "Yes, Mr. Harris. A corporate celebration. A large company is going to celebrate the promotion of one of its executives." "What's the executive's name?" "One moment, let me check. His name is Robert Harris." My own son had booked my hall without knowing it was mine. "How many people will there be?" I asked. 150 guests. They booked the main hall, the garden, and requested the full package with dinner, music, and elegant decoration. "How much are they paying?" $20,000, Mr. Harris. $20,000. My son was paying that amount to celebrate in a place where his father was the owner. "David, I want you to have everything perfect for that event. Don't miss a single detail." "Of course, Mr. Harris. We always have everything perfect." "Yes, but this event is special." All week I had been planning what I was going to do. Part of me wanted to call Robert and tell him the truth. Tell him he didn't have to pay anything. That he was welcome to celebrate in his father's hall. But another part of me, the part that was hurt and angry, wanted to teach him a lesson he would never forget. In the end, I decided to let things take their natural course. It was 5 in the afternoon on Saturday when I drove to the Pines. The party started at 8, but I wanted to get there early to supervise the final details. When I arrived, the hall looked spectacular. The gardens were perfect, the tables decorated with white tablecloths and centerpieces with red roses. The lights created a magical atmosphere. Everything was ready to receive the important people who were going to celebrate my son's promotion. "Mr. Harris," David greeted me when he saw me arrive. "Everything is ready. The waiters have arrived. The chefs are finishing preparing the dinner. The music will start at 8 o'clock sharp." "Perfect, David. Where will I be?" "In your office as always. From there you can see the whole hall without anyone bothering you." My office was on the second floor, with large windows that looked directly onto the main hall and the gardens. From there I could see everything that happened, without anyone seeing me. "One more thing, David," I said. "If at any point Mr. Robert Harris asks for the owner of the hall, send him straight to my office." "Do you know him, Mr. Harris?" "Yes," I said with a smile. "I know him very well." I settled into my office with a coffee and some papers. From the window I could see the first guests arriving. Elegant cars, well-dressed people, executives in expensive suits, and women in designer dresses. At 8 o'clock sharp, Robert arrived. He was driving a new truck I hadn't seen before. He got out with his wife Emily, who was wearing a very elegant blue dress. They looked happy, excited, proud. Behind them came Michael and Sarah with their respective partners. All very dressed up, all very happy. My 3 children together in the same place celebrating the success of one of them. The only one missing was the father who had made them possible. I watched them enter the hall, greet the guests, pose for photos, toast with champagne. Robert was radiant. It was his night of glory, his moment of triumph. For the first hour, I watched everything from my office. I saw how my children chatted with their work colleagues, how they boasted about their achievements, how they behaved as if they were part of high society. Robert was telling a group of executives about his humble origins, but in a way that sounded more like an interesting story than a painful reality. "My father was a construction worker," he was saying to a man in a gray suit. "A very hard-working, very simple man. Thanks to his effort, I was able to study and get to where I am." He said it with affection, but also with a certain distance, as if he were talking about someone he had known a long time ago, not his father, who was still alive. At 9:30, I decided it was time. I went down the stairs and told David I wanted to do a quick inspection of the hall. It was something I did at all important events. I walked among the tables, discreetly greeting some waiters, supervising that everything was perfect. Most of the guests paid no attention to me. To them, I was just another employee of the place. But when I passed near the table where my children were, Sarah saw me. Her eyes widened like saucers. "Dad!" she whispered, unable to believe what she was seeing. "Dad!" Sarah whispered, unable to believe what she was seeing. I put a finger to my lips, asking her for silence, and continued walking as if nothing had happened. But I could see the total confusion on her face. What was her father doing here? Why was he dressed as if he worked at the place? I returned to my office and waited. I knew Sarah wouldn't be able to stay quiet for long. She was the most impulsive of my children, the one who always had to know everything, the one who couldn't keep secrets. I wasn't wrong. 10 minutes later, someone knocked on my office door. "Come in," I said. It was Sarah. She entered slowly, as if in a dream. Her eyes scanned the entire office, the fine wooden desk, the diplomas on the walls, the photos of different events held in the hall. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Working, honey. What else?" But this is a very elegant office." "Whose is it?" "Mine." She was silent for a long moment, processing what she had just heard. "Yours? What do you mean, yours?" "Sit down, Sarah. I'll explain." She sat in the chair in front of my desk, but she looked confused, almost scared. "Dad, I don't understand anything. What are you doing here? Why are the waiters greeting you as if you're their boss?" "Because I am their boss, honey." "What? I'm the owner of this place, Sarah. I own the Pines. Her face turned white, completely white. You're the owner of this hall. For 8 years now. But how, with what money you're… What am I, honey? You worked as a construction worker. I'm simple, basic. Someone who doesn't fit in with sophisticated people. She fell silent. The words she had heard from her brother now sounded different in her head. Sarah, your brother Robert, paid $20,000 to have his party here tonight. $20,000. Yes, money that goes straight into the account of the simple, basic dad he didn't invite to his celebration. Sarah covered her face with her hands. I think for the first time in her life she was understanding the magnitude of what had happened. Dad, we didn't know. You didn't know what, honey? You didn't know your father was capable of success. You didn't know the old construction worker could be something more than an obstacle in your important lives. That's not it, Dad. Then what is it? Sarah explained to me why all 3 of you agreed to exclude me from this celebration. Explain why you decided to lie, telling me I had other plans. Her eyes filled with tears. Dad, Robert told us that you would feel uncomfortable, that it was better this way. And you believed him. I thought maybe he was right. These people are very different from us. Different from us. Honey, do you know who paid for you to study and become a teacher? Do you know who worked day and night so you could have a college degree? You did, Dad. And do you know what I have now thanks to all that work? I pointed toward the window, toward the hall where the party was taking place. I have this. I have an empire I built with my own hands. I have 8 different businesses. I have a construction company that employs 200 people. I have properties all over the city. Sarah looked at me as if she were seeing me for the first time. But above all, honey, I have 3 children who are ashamed of the man who made everything they have possible. We're not ashamed of you, Dad. Oh, no. Then explain to me why, when Robert told you he wasn't going to invite me, none of you objected. Explain why, when I asked you about the party, you all went along with the lie. She remained silent because she had no answer. Do you know what the saddest part of all this is, Sarah? What, Dad? That I bought this hall thinking of you all. Thinking that one day my children would celebrate their important moments here. Thinking about my grandchildren's weddings. About family parties. About all the celebrations we were going to have together. Tears were already streaming down her cheeks. And it turns out the first important event held here is precisely one from which I was excluded. Dad, forgive me. It's not me you need to ask for forgiveness, honey. It's yourself, because you knew this was wrong, and you did nothing to stop it. Just then, someone else knocked on the door. Come in, Moss, I said. It was Michael. He entered nervously, looking for Sarah. Sarah, we were looking for you. Robert wants to make the main toast and… Dad. His face went through the same expressions Sarah had. Confusion, surprise, disbelief. Hello, Michael. What are you doing here? How did you get in? I didn't get in, son. I never left. I live here. What do you mean you live here? This is my office in my hall on my property. Michael staggered a bit and had to lean against the wall. Your hall. Yes, Michael. Your brother is celebrating his promotion in his dad's hall. The dad who doesn't fit into his new life. Dad, You what, Michael? Are you also going to tell me you didn't know? Are you also going to continue with the lie? Michael looked at Sarah, who was still crying. and then he looked at me. Dad, it was Robert's idea. He convinced us it was for the best. And what did you think? I thought maybe he was right. That you would feel out of place. Out of place in my own hall? But we didn't know it was yours. That's not the question, Michael. The question is, at what point did you decide that your father was an embarrassment to you? They both fell silent. Outside in the hall you could hear music and laughter. The party continued. Robert was still celebrating his success, not knowing that his father was just a few feet away, watching him from the office of the place he himself had bought. Now you're going to go back to the party, I told my two children. You're going to continue celebrating with Robert. You're going to act as if nothing happened. And what are you going to do, Dad? Sarah asked me. I'm going to stay here in my office watching my children enjoy the party in my hall. The party I wasn't invited to because I don't fit into their world. Dad, can we talk to Robert? No, I interrupted them. It's too late for that. Go enjoy your celebration. They left my office with their heads down, devastated. But the most important part was yet to come. Robert still had to discover the truth. After Michael and Sarah left my office, I sat there watching through the window as they returned to the hall. They both looked devastated, confused, carrying a weight they didn't have before. I watched them approach Robert, who was at that moment chatting animatedly with a group of executives. When he saw them, he asked them something. From their gestures, I could imagine he was asking where they had been. Michael said something in his ear. I saw how Robert's face changed instantly. He stopped smiling. He looked up toward where he knew the administrative offices were. Then he looked at Michael as if he hadn't quite understood what he had said. Sarah spoke to him too. I could see she was nervous, discreetly wiping away her tears. Robert looked at both of them. Then he looked up again. For a few minutes he continued with his guests, but he wasn't the same. He no longer laughed with the same naturalness. He no longer looked so comfortable. Every so often he would glance towards the offices, as if trying to decide what to do. The party went on. Dinner was served. There were toasts, speeches from his bosses congratulating him on his promotion. But I knew that Robert was no longer fully present. His mind was elsewhere. At 11 o'clock, when most of the guests had eaten and were on the dance floor, I saw Robert break away from the group. He said something to his wife, something to his siblings, and walked towards the stairs leading to the offices. I pressed the intercom on my desk. David, I said to my manager. Yes, Mr. Harris. Mr. Robert Harris is coming up to my office. Let him pass. Understood, boss. I waited. I knew this moment would come. All week I had imagined it. What would I say to him? How would he react? Would he get angry? Would he be ashamed? Would he feel regret? There was a knock on the door. 3 soft knocks. Come in. Robert entered. He looked elegant in his black suit, his blue tie, his shiny shoes. He looked successful, prosperous, important. But his face showed a mixture of confusion and nervousness I had never seen in him. He stood in the doorway looking at my office with the same surprised eyes his siblings had. Dad, is it true what Michael and Sarah told me? It depends on what they told you. They told me that you're the owner of this place. Yes, it's true. He approached my desk slowly, as if he were walking in a dream. Since when? For 8 years. But how? Where did you get the money? From the same place I got the money to pay for your education, my son. From work. He sat in the chair across from me for the first time since he had arrived. He looked me directly in the eyes. Dad, I didn't know. You didn't know what Robert... I didn't know you had so much money. I didn't know you were, what am I, son? I don't know how to say it. Say it. You're rich, you're successful, you're important. Important. What a strange word coming from his mouth. Ah, so now I'm important. Now that you know I have money, now I fit into your world. That's not it, Dad. Then what is it, Robert? Because a week ago you told me I was too simple, too basic to be with your sophisticated friends. He fell silent. He had no answer for that. Do you know how much you paid to have your party here? $20,000. $20,000 that went straight into the account of the dad who doesn't fit into your life. I saw his eyes fill with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of shame. Dad, You what, son? I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. What were you wrong about? About not inviting you? About thinking that you didn't belong in my world? So now that you know I own this place, now I belong. That's not it. Then what is it? He got up from the chair and started pacing the office. He was nervous, agitated. It's just, look, Dad. My friends, my bosses, my coworkers, they all have fathers who are businessmen, doctors, lawyers, fathers who talk about business, investments, politics. And I always told them my dad was a construction worker. I said it with pride, but I also knew I was different. I knew they saw me differently. Differently how? As someone who came from nothing. As someone who didn't have class. And that embarrassed you? He fell silent again. Answer me, Robert. Were you embarrassed that your father was a construction worker? I... Say it. Yes, he whispered. Yes, I was embarrassed. He had finally told the truth. He had finally admitted what I already knew. And now what? Now that you know I have money, you're not embarrassed anymore. It's not about the money, Dad. Then what is it about? It's because now I realize I didn't really know you. I thought I knew everything about you, but I knew nothing. What didn't you know? I didn't know you were capable of this, he said, gesturing towards the hall. I didn't know you had built this whole empire. I didn't know that you were so smart about business. You think being a construction worker means being stupid. No. Then, it's just, you never told me about your other businesses. You never told me you had so much money. And why do you think I never told you? I don't know. I'll explain it to you. I never told you because I wanted you to strive on your own. I wanted you to study, to work to become a man on your own merits. I understand that. You understand it because what you did last week tells me you don't understand anything. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. What are you sorry for? For not inviting you, for being ashamed of you, for being so stupid. And you think an apology fixes everything? No, I don't know. I got up from my chair and walked to the window. From there I could see the whole party, the guests dancing, laughing, enjoying themselves, his wife chatting with other women, his siblings trying to act normal. Do you know what hurts me the most about all this, Robert? What, Dad? That for 30 years I worked so that you could get to where you are. For 30 years I sacrificed so you could have the opportunities I never had. I know, Dad. And when you finally made it, when you finally achieved what we both wanted, you decided I was no longer worthy of being by your side. That's not true. Yes, it is true, son. And the saddest part is that you don't realize that everything you have, everything you are, is thanks to the man you're ashamed of. Robert came closer to me. His face was streaked with tears. Dad, forgive me. Please forgive me. It's not about forgiving you or not, Robert. It's about you understanding that actions have consequences. What consequences? I looked him straight in the eye. You're about to find out. What consequences? Robert had asked me. I stood in silence for a moment, looking out the window at the hall where his party was unfolding. His promotion party. His moment of glory that he had paid for with his own money, not knowing that every dollar had gone straight into the account of the father he had excluded. Sit down, Robert, I said, without turning to look at him. Dad, tell me what you're going to do. Sit down, I repeated more firmly. He sat. I could hear the creak of the leather chair, the same sound I had heard when his siblings had sat there minutes before. I turned and looked at him. There was my eldest son, my firstborn, the one who had been my pride for so many years, crying like a small child. But he was no longer the boy who ran to hug me when I came home from work. He was a 45-year-old man who had chosen to be ashamed of his own father. All my life, I said, I have made decisions thinking about you, all about you, Michael and Sarah. Every dollar I earned, every business I started, every sacrifice I made was for you. I know, Dad. You say you know, but your actions tell me the opposite. I sat in my chair across from him. On my desk was a photo of when he graduated with his engineering degree. The two of us smiling him with his diploma, me in my old suit, but with the greatest pride in the world. You see that photo, Robert? He looked at it and nodded. That day was one of the happiest of my life. That day I thought, that's it. My son has achieved what I never could. Now he's going to be someone important in life. And I did it, Dad, thanks to you. Yes, you did. But something happened along the way. At some point, success went to your head, and you forgot where you came from. I didn't forget. Yes, you did, son. Because if you hadn't forgotten, you never would have thought your father was an embarrassment to your new life. Robert wiped his tears with the sleeve of his jacket. What are you going to do, Dad? Are you going to punish me? Are you going to go down to the hall and tell all my guests that I'm an ungrateful son? The thought had crossed my mind, I won't deny it. The idea of going down, taking the microphone, and telling everyone present that the successful Robert Harris was celebrating in the hall of the father he had excluded for being too basic. No, Robert, I'm not going to do that. Then what? I got up and walked to a filing cabinet in the corner of the office. I took out a thick folder full of documents. Do you know what this is? No. These are the papers for my will. His face turned pale. Dad, are you sick? I'm not sick, son, but I'm 72 years old. It's time I started getting my affairs in order. I placed the folder on my desk in front of him. For years, I planned to leave everything to the three of you. The 8 businesses, the construction company, the properties, this hall. Everything divided into equal parts among my 3 children. Dad, but last week I changed my mind. What are you saying? After what happened with you, after discovering that Michael and Sarah agreed to exclude me, I decided to change my will. Robert froze, completely frozen. You changed it? Yes. And not only that, I also decided to change some things while I'm still alive. I opened the folder and took out several documents. Do you know how much everything I own is worth, Robert? No. $48 million. His eyes widened like saucers. 48 million. Yes, my son. The simple basic dad who doesn't fit into your world has $48 million. He remained silent, processing the information. All week I've been thinking about what to do with all this. Should I leave it to the children who are ashamed of me? Should I leave it to people who think I'm an embarrassment to their successful lives? Dad, we don't think that. Yes, you do, Robert. Your actions have shown me that very clearly. I took out a specific sheet from the folder. Here is my new decision. What did you decide? I've decided to donate all my money. What? The 48 million will go to a foundation that helps poor children get an education. Children who come from humble families, like where you came from. Children whose parents are construction workers, carpenters, plumbers, gardeners. Robert shot up from his chair as if he had been electrocuted. You can't do that. Why can't I? Because that money is for us. It's our future, your grandchildren's future. Oh, really? Now you care about the basic dad's money. It's not that. Then what is it, Robert? Because a week ago I was an embarrassment to you. And now that you know I have money, suddenly I'm important again. It's not about the money. Oh no, then it shouldn't matter to you if I donate it. He fell silent because he knew I was right. But there's more, I continued. More what? I've also decided to sell all my businesses. You're going to sell them? Yes. The tortilla shops, the hardware store, the diners, the construction company, this hall. Everything. Why? Because I want to leave the country. Leave the country. Yes, Robert. I want to go live somewhere where nobody knows me, where I can start over, where I don't have to deal with children who are ashamed of me. Dad, you can't do that. Why not? What's keeping me here? The children who don't invite me to their celebrations. The grandchildren whose parents keep them away from their basic grandfather. Robert stood up and started pacing the office like a caged animal. Dad, this is crazy. You can't throw everything away because of a mistake we made. A mistake you call excluding your father from the most important celebration of your life, a mistake. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. No, Robert, it wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. A conscious decision that the three of you made. A decision that showed me exactly what you think of me. But now we know the truth. And what does that change now that you know I have money? Am I worthy of being in your lives? It's not about the money. Then prove it. If it's not about the money, it shouldn't matter to you if I donate it all. He fell silent again. Do you know what the saddest part of all this is, my son? What? That for 72 years I lived for my family. Everything I did, everything I achieved was with you in mind. And when the time finally came to reap what we had sown together, I discovered that my own children were ashamed of me. Dad, there's no dad that's worth... My mind is made up, Robert. And there's nothing I can do to change your mind. I looked him straight in the eyes. Something very extraordinary would have to happen for me to change my mind. Like what? We'll see, my son, we'll see. Robert left my office like a lost soul. I watched him from the window as he walked among his guests, but he was no longer the same man who had arrived 3 hours earlier. He looked devastated, confused, lost. His friends asked if he was okay, but he just smiled faintly and told them everything was perfect. The party continued until after midnight. I stayed in my office the whole time watching everything unfold from above. I saw Robert tell his wife what had happened. I saw the look of shock on Emily's face when she learned the truth. I saw Michael and Sarah approach their older brother, and the three of them started talking in a corner away from the guests. I saw them point upwards towards my office as they argued among themselves. When the party ended and all the guests had left, my 3 children remained in the hall. David, my manager, came up to my office. Mr. Harris, all the guests have left. Should I close the hall? And my children, they're still downstairs talking. It seems like they're waiting for something. Let them be. Close up everything else, but leave them there. Are you going to stay? Yes, David. You go get some rest. See you tomorrow. David left and I remained in my office. It was around 2 in the morning when there was finally a knock on the door. Come in. All three of them entered: Robert, Michael, and Sarah. They looked tired, nervous, but determined, as if they had made an important decision. Dad, Robert began, we need to talk to you. We've already talked, son. No, Dad. The four of us need to talk. As a family. Family. I repeated the word. Are we a family now? The three of them sat down in front of my desk. Sarah's eyes were swollen from crying so much. Michael looked very serious, more serious than I had seen him in years. And Robert looked as if he had aged 10 years in one night. Dad, Sarah began, we the three of us wanted to apologize to you. You've already apologized, each one of you separately. No, Dad, said Michael. We wanted to apologize together as siblings, as a family. And what does that change? It changes that now we understand, said Robert. We understand the magnitude of what we did. Oh, really? And what was it that you did? We hurt the man who has loved us the most in life, said Sarah. The man who sacrificed everything so we could have a better life. The man who worked day and night so we could study, added Michael. The man who never complained, who never asked for anything in return. The best father in the world, finished Robert. And we repaid him by being ashamed of him. I remained silent, listening to them. But inside something was stirring, something I hadn't felt all week. Dad, Robert continued, we know we made a horrible mistake. We know we don't deserve your forgiveness, but we want to ask you for a chance. A chance for what? To show you that we're not the ungrateful children we seem to be. And how do you plan on doing that? The three of them looked at each other as if they had rehearsed what they were going to say. We want you to do something, Dad, said Sarah. What is it? We want you to throw another party, said Michael. Another party. Yes, said Robert. We want you to throw a party here in your hall to celebrate your 72 years of life. My birthday was 3 months ago. It doesn't matter, said Sarah. We want to celebrate your life, your achievements, everything you've built. And we want to invite all the important people in your life, added Michael. Your employees, your partners, your old friends, all the people who truly know and respect you. And we want to be the hosts, said Robert. We want to organize everything. We want to pay for everything. We want to be the ones to introduce you to the world as the successful man you are. I was silent for a long moment. A very long moment. And what do you gain from this? We gain nothing, Dad, said Sarah. On the contrary, we'll be exposing ourselves. We'll be publicly acknowledging that we were wrong about you. We'll admit to everyone that the construction worker dad we have is in fact one of the most successful businessmen in Chicago, said Michael. And we'll tell all those important people from my work that my father is 1,000 times more successful than any of them, finished Robert. And what if I've already made my decision? What if I've already decided to donate everything and leave the country? Then we'll respect your decision, said Robert. But first give us this chance. Give us the chance to show you that we recognize our mistake. Give us the chance to feel proud of you publicly, said Sarah. Give us the chance to show off the father we have, finished Michael. I looked at the three of them. There were my children, the same children I had raised, educated, and loved more than my own life. But they weren't children anymore. They were adults who had made a serious mistake and were willing to do anything to amend it. And what guarantees me that this isn't just because you found out I have money? Nothing, Dad, said Robert. We can't guarantee you anything. We can only give you our word that now we understand who you really are. And who am I really? You're the hardest working man we know, said Sarah. You're the smartest man we know, said Michael. You're the best father in the world, said Robert. And we were fools for not realizing it sooner. I got up from my chair and walked to the window. The hall was empty now, silent in the shadows. But images from my whole life flashed through my mind. When I arrived in Chicago with $50, when I met Lucy, when my children were born. All the nights I worked extra to give them what they needed. All the sacrifices I made thinking about their future. And I also thought about Lucy, about what she would say to me if she were alive. I knew my wife. I knew exactly what she would say. You silly old man, she would say with that smile of hers. They're your children. They made a mistake, but they're your children. Give them another chance. I turned towards them. All right, I said. All right, what, Dad? Asked Sarah. All right. Organize your party. The three of them got up at the same time and came to hug me. For the first time in years, I felt my three children hugging me together like when they were little. But with one condition, I said. Whatever you want, Dad, said Robert. You will organize the party, you will pay for it, and you will invite whoever you want. But I will decide what is said that night. What are you going to say, Dad? Asked Michael. You'll see, I said. You'll see. 2 weeks later, the Pines was full again. But this time was different. This time the party was for me. My children had kept their word. They organized everything, paid for everything, and invited all the important people in my life. My partners from the construction company were there, the employees from my businesses, my lifelong friends, people who had worked with me since I arrived in Chicago. Robert's bosses were also there, his co-workers, the important people who I had previously been deemed unfit for. I wore my best suit, one I had bought a few years ago, but had never worn because I had nowhere to wear it. When I arrived at the hall, my children were waiting for me at the entrance. The three of them looked nervous but determined. Robert approached me. Dad, are you ready? Yes, son, I'm ready. Are you sure you don't want us to accompany you when you speak? No, Robert. This is something I have to do alone. We entered the hall, and it was as if a celebrity had arrived. Everyone came up to greet me, to congratulate me, to chat with me. My business employees looked at me with pride, as they always had. My partners hugged me and told me it was about time my children knew who their father really was. But the most interesting thing was seeing the faces of Robert's co-workers. Some of them knew me by sight because they had been to the hall for other events, but they had never imagined I was the owner. Stephen, said the general manager of the company where Robert worked, I didn't know you were Robert's father. It's an honor to meet you. The honor is mine, I replied. Robert has told me a lot about you. Your son is one of our best assets. But now I understand where he gets his business acumen from. Throughout dinner, I watched my children. They looked different than they had at Robert's party. This time, they introduced me with pride. They included me in all conversations. They made sure I was comfortable. Robert especially seemed anxious to show his people that he had a successful father. After dinner, the moment everyone was waiting for arrived. Michael took the microphone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Harris, one of the sons of our guest of honor tonight. Everyone applauded. Before my dad says a few words, my siblings and I want to say something. Robert and Sarah approached the microphone. For many years, Michael continued, we thought we knew our father. We thought we knew everything about him, about his achievements, about what he had built. But we were wrong. Sarah took the microphone. It turns out our dad is much more than we ever imagined. He's smarter, more successful, more capable than we ever knew, said Robert. And as his children, we failed to value him as he deserved. Michael took the microphone again. That's why tonight we want to publicly apologize to our father. And we want all of you to know the extraordinary man we are lucky enough to call Dad. The three of them turned to me and started clapping. The whole room filled with applause. I walked towards the microphone, but inside I knew that what I was about to say was not what my children expected to hear. Good evening, I began. Thank you all for being here tonight. I waited for the applause to die down. My children have organized this party to honor me, and I thank them very much for the gesture. But I want to take this opportunity to talk about something more important than my achievements. I saw the confused faces in the audience. This was not what they expected. 2 weeks ago, my son Robert told me something that hurt me very much. He told me that I didn't fit into his world of sophisticated and important people. He told me I was too simple, too basic to be at his promotion party. The silence in the hall was absolute. You could hear a pin drop. And you know what, he was right. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. He was right because I don't fit into a world where a person's worth is measured by their money or their social position. I don't fit into a world where a son is ashamed of his father because he works with his hands. Robert had turned pale. For 40 years, I was a construction worker. I built buildings, houses, schools. With these hands, I said, holding up my calloused hands, I helped build the city we live in, and I am proud of that. It's also true that I later built a business, that I have properties, that I've been financially successful. But do you know what the most important thing I've ever built in my life is? Total silence. The most important thing I have built is my children. 3 successful professionals who got where they are thanks to their own efforts, but also thanks to the sacrifice of their construction worker father. That's why I want to say something to all of you, especially to the young people who are here. Never be ashamed of where you come from. Never be ashamed of your parents, no matter what their job is. A person's value isn't in their bank account or their college degree. A person's value is in their character, in their honesty, in the love they give to their family. My children made a mistake by being ashamed of me, but I don't judge them because I also made a mistake. What mistake, Dad? Sarah shouted from the audience. My mistake was not telling them about my other businesses. My mistake was making them believe I had to hide my achievements so they would strive. My mistake was not teaching them that they could be proud of both the construction worker father and the businessman father, because they are both the same person. That's why tonight I want to announce something important. The hall was completely silent. I'm not going to donate my money. I'm not going to leave the country. My businesses will continue to grow, and when I'm gone, they will be for my children and my grandchildren. Sighs of relief from the audience. But with one condition, that you never forget where you come from, that you never be ashamed of honest work, that you always remember that the most important thing in life is not what you have, but who you have by your side. Because at the end of the day, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have a family that loves and respects you for who you are, you have nothing. I walked over to where my children were. Robert, Michael, Sarah. You are my greatest pride. Not because of your degrees, not because of your jobs, but because you are good people. You made a mistake, but you had the humility to recognize it and the courage to amend it. I hugged all 3 of them. And that is worth more than all the money in the world. The room erupted in applause, but I was no longer thinking about the people. I was thinking about my children who were crying in my arms like when they were little. I love you, I whispered in their ears. I love you just as you are. And we love you too, Dad, the 3 of them said at the same time. That night we all learned an important lesson. That family love can't be bought with money, but it can be lost with pride. And that it's never too late to remember what really matters in life. And that's why, my friend, I say it's never too late to start over. Now you tell me, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? And while you're at it, tell me, from what little corner of the world are you listening to me?